Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Corporate Rebel Podcast. I'm your host, Landon, along with co-hosts Nina Monique and Terretta. We are back talking about mental health, continuous from our last podcast. So, you guys are ready. I'm ready. Let's dive into it. First and foremost, how are my ladies doing? How you guys doing? How have you been?
I've been good, hanging in there. I woke up, this morning. I woke up the previous day, so I'm great. I'm here for a purpose, so whatever is in store for me, that's what it is. So I'm great. Toretta.
Oh, like that. Just kick the ball over in my court. Well, I'm doing great. I'm above ground in a good wig. So anytime you have that combination of some things going on, I'm ready to have a good conversation. Let's dive into what it looks like to what does your mental health look like in a toxic work environment? We started that conversation a couple of weeks ago, and I'm ready to dive in. So, Landon, let's do it.
It's tough, right? Like, I think whether it's corporate America or any job, if the work environment is not beneficial or positive, it's really hard to be motivated. Like I can say that I've worked for jobs where I'm like, you know what, I don't even want to be here. For what? Like I get up, like, yeah, you know that you have bills to pay. And then you kind of run into a little bit of complacency where it's like, I don't even really want to go through the whole process of finding a new job. Yeah. But at the same time, to kind of, I guess, the question that's posed is like, I don't want to be here. I don't feel like I'm being heard. I don't feel like I'm being valued. I don't feel like it's worth it for me to get up and make this drive into work, or even if you're working from home, like get on my computer when the people that you deal with or the company that you work for, it's just, you can feel it, and it really weighs on you and stresses on your mental, on your emotional, on your physical. So, for me, it's I don't want to do it, and you might find a couple people that, you can gravitate towards that makes it a little bit worth it. But it's just one of those things where it's like, we can just be friends outside of work, or we can chill, we can go have a dinner or a happy hour and get some drinks or something. But so for me, it's almost like you can't really avoid it. I think the place you go is going to have a little bit of toxicity there, or the people, or a few bad apples or whatever. But it's kind of about what you want to make of it. So I'll leave it there for now and push the buck over to Nina. So you
Troublemaker PIA. Well, for me, over the years, it was definitely a challenge. As Landon said, it takes a toll on you mentally and physically and emotionally. When I was back east and I was working in New York, when I was having, when I would be in a toxic work environment, getting up every day and hopping on a bus in the morning, which could be a 2-hour ride from Paterson, New Jersey to New York City, and then get on the subway once we get in Port Authority and, get on the train and go to my job. By the time I get to the job, I'm like, I feel like I did my 8 hours already. Just thinking about
car.
Just thinking about, what I have, what the store. I would try to think positive, but because every day was just about the same, especially dealing with the same managers and the same co-workers. And when you know what to expect, it's hard to think in a positive manner. So for me, it was difficult. But with some of the co-workers that I did become friends with, we would be each other's like support system. And we would when we put our bags down, because 9 times out of 10, everybody's walking in the building at the same time in New York. And we would put our bags down, go in the ladies' room, wash our hands, get ourselves situated, and then we would go and get breakfast. And we would just, take that walk and be like, okay, we know what the day was expected. Let's just, get it done so we could do what we have to do and call it a day. And that helped because we would ping each other, text each other. Somebody would get up and go by someone's desk. Hey, how you doing? You all right? Just comforting each other. So
Sounds like y'all weren't really working. That's what it sounds like.
no, we was working. We was just each other's support because we knew what each other was going through. So, it was hard, but I found a way to get through it with that support from other colleagues. And when you're going through something in a toxic work environment, it's definitely hard to function. It's definitely hard to be motivated. Um, and it's difficult. But again, if you have the support of some of your colleagues, that could help lift some of the burden of what you're going through during the day.
That's a good point you bring out, Nina. Support system.
Mm-hmm.
That is vital to surviving in a toxic work environment. Um, I learned something this past week,
Mm-hmm.
um, and it's regarding mental health. And I want to pose a question to you two. And I'm coming from the standpoint of Black culture.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. When you're raised and in an environment where your parents, whether a single parent or a two parent household, has to prepare you for your journey in the workforce or just walking outside of the house.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But I want to focus on this when you're told to be strong.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Um, when do we allow ourselves to not be strong all the time and allow ourselves to feel and embrace and acknowledge what we are really feeling on the inside? And it may not necessarily can come on a one-on-one with your friends,
Mm-hmm.
because once again, we're talking about toxic work environments. So when you're already part of a system that is toxic already, and you've been traumatized by that very thing, and then you go to work and find yourself being re-traumatized by little things that are triggers that you didn't even wasn't even aware that triggers that. When do that phrase, you got to be strong, go out the window? um because I think that's what's killing us.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we won't acknowledge the mental health aspect because that's seen as weak. So I want to put that out there. When is being strong not an option? Okay.
See,
Um, I want to know.
it's different for me because I grew up in a two-parent home, but I was raised by my grandmother, and my grandfather is a Caucasian male. So having that be a strong Black man impression was never really there. And I didn't grow up. I mean, I grew up having to deal with some of that here and there as far as being called the N word or being looked at differently because of who my parents were and the age difference. There's a 35-year age difference. So part of it was them not kind of coming along with the times,
Mm.
and me seeing the shift of this is what I'm going to be going through for the rest of my life. Is this what my mom went through? And I wish she was calling my mom again because she raised me, but I wish that she was alive today, going through the George Floyd incidents, going through all the shootings and one that just occurred a couple of weeks ago, so that I could have that conversation with her, because I know that she marched with Martin Luther King. So being able to go back and have that conversation, I think, would be vital in the things that I'm dealing with now, to where being strong is that I'm dealing with now, to where being strong is a requirement. Being strong is mandatory, regardless of what you're going through. I need to be strong for me. I need to be strong for my wife. I need to be strong for my kids and other people who I may be influencing that I don't even know that I'm influencing. But when you come to work and your managers or those around you are kind of like, I'm going to put more on you because I see how strong you are, that's not okay. Like, I had a saying that people are always saying, like, I like to make people laugh. And it's like, okay, I like to make people laugh.
Mm-hmm.
But people like me still need somebody to make us laugh as well. And it's kind of a sharing of the guard, where it's like, I am strong, you are strong, but that doesn't mean that, I'm going to add more weights to your backpack so that we can walk through it and you can carry most of the load, because I feel like, excuse me, you would do a better job in handling it. And I think management or the powers that be should recognize that just because I'm strong doesn't mean that I don't have my breaking point.
Absolutely.
And it may be a little bit, higher up the ladder than other people, but at the same time, like, don't put more on somebody just because you feel like they can handle it. If you see that somebody's taking something, even though they seem like they're taking it well, ask.
Mm-hmm.
See if you can help. See if there's something that you can do to lighten the load to make it a little bit easier. Because you're going to have people like my direct manager who aren't going to complain about it. They're just going to get it done.
Mm-hmm.
But what you don't see is that this person gets up at 4 or 5 in the morning, works all day with very minimal breaks, and doesn't go to sleep until 2 a.m. and then does it all over again. So, for me, it's a new process of learning what I need to do and how I need to do it and navigate through those waters so that it doesn't impact me to the point to where my job or my career is causing me to be weak in areas of taking care of my family and being there for my loved ones. So all that's serious. I'm gonna kick it to my left or right. You, Nina.
Miss Nina gets to take it away because it's posed to her as well. But specifically for you, Miss Nina, being a Black woman, I know we take the brunt of things in the sense of Black women are raised to be strong. You are raised to carry families. You are raised to create the change that you want to see, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when is enough? Because being strong all the time impacts your mental health as well.
Yeah. For me, like growing up in a home with my, I didn't have a two-parent home. It was just my mother, my grandmother, and my uncle. And the three of them were strong. My grandmother was a widow. My grandfather passed away when I was a baby. So she took on the household and making sure everything was okay. My mother was married, got divorced, moved back to my grandmother's house. So you have that strong element right there of my mom raising me by herself. Mm-hmm. But my grandmother was there and my uncle was there. And all three of them together, they showed me how important it is to hold your own. I never seen my mother, my grandmother, or my uncle break down from any struggles. And when I look at it now, I'm like, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, because if I'm feeling like I can't handle something, is it okay to cry? Is it okay to break down? Because I didn't see them do that. They always carried whatever it is they were going through. And for me, at this point that I'm at now in my life, being here on the West Coast alone and trying to deal with work and dealing with the things that's going on in the world and trying to maintain my own, sometimes it do get a little bit too much for me. And I have those moments where I do sit in my room and cry because I feel alone sometimes, even though I know deep down inside I'm not. But is you feel things differently when you're alone.
Absolutely.
And because I think about my grandmother, my uncle, and my mother, I'm like, okay, suck it up, Nina. You could do this. Like they did it. And I'm like, but I'm not them completely. And I feel it is okay to have those moments to break down. Um, but I just try to keep them in mind, that things can get better, but I do feel alone at times and I do have my breakdowns. And I think it's okay to do that. Every day is not a perfect day. Everything is not going to go the way you want it to go. And sometimes you feel like, oh, damn, like, how did I get myself in this? How do I get myself out of it? And your mind start racing. And sometimes it feel like you don't have people to talk to that you could trust all the time, or you're embarrassed by something. So you try to fix it on your own. And sometimes those breakdowns are needed because maybe then you could have like a clearer picture of what it is that you need to do to get things back on track, or to get yourself together. That's that's how I feel about it. I don't know if I answered your question the way you wanted it answered, but
No,
that's
you absolutely answered.
okay.
And you opened up
really
something
it's
else.
really a tough question because one is going to depend on the individual and how much they can take on, even in the midst of being, strong as a bull or whatever. It's up to that person to decide, I don't like this anymore. I don't want it anymore. And I'm going to do something about it.
Right.
I think it was one of the old Medea movies or plays where Tyler Perry had said, when you're tired of something, you actually going to do something about it.
Right.
Absolutely.
And
Which brings me to, I want to pose a question right here, though,
okay.
because there is a responsibility part here, and the onus is on the person. Okay. But when you're in a toxic environment and you are verbalizing that it is too much for you, and you're not being heard nor appreciated when you say these things, if anything, it serves as a sign that they see you as weak and they want to get rid of you. So here's where I'm going with this. Although we are geared and taught to be strong and never break and be these strong people, when you vocalize in a toxic work environment that it is too much and you're not being taken seriously, what do you suggest you say to a person that's going through something like that?
Well, I was going to flip it back on you because I know your current situation that you're dealing with. So, one, I know the things that you have said and who you've actually spoken to about your feelings on the matter and your particular responsibilities. What is it that you feel would actually help you go through that or flow through those waters to where your mind is a little bit at ease for that moment? Or because I don't feel like there's going to be a permanent fix applied unless some serious changes are made to where what you're currently going through is no longer something that you're going through. So what is it that you would want to see happen, or who is it that you'd want to hear it from, or what is it that you'd actually want them to say or do to change the narrative of you are strong, so we're going to keep putting stuff on your plate? You're welcome. I see the real
I call them PIA.
You don't put me on the spot. That's what we here for.
Okay, well, let's go there. Because I am a strong woman. Okay. But it was a little bit different for me when I heard even my own supervisor have said it to me But when you have colleagues come back to you because they are angry because they see what you're going through and the struggles that you carry. But your boss keeps saying, oh, she'll be okay. She's strong. She has been through some stuff. So she'll be okay. And even though I'm vocalizing, this is too much. I need some help on this. That's all they can hear. Okay. Because of how you carry yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So it's almost like it's biting you in your ass for even
Absolutely.
having that personal relationship with management or the powers that be, because they're using that against you. So they, yeah, we'll show up to your barbecue. Yeah, we'll, get on this Zoom call and talk to you about your kids or how you're doing and see that your work is still productive, even in the midst of all the stuff that you're dealing with, and then turn around and say, oh, well, we can give it to you, even though, you're having some health issues. We can give it to you, even though, you're taking on this and that. So again, I guess that goes back to your question, like, what is it that is it going to take for enough to be enough? And what does that action look like, I guess, on that individual's part?
Absolutely. Do you make that change because you can think that the grass is greener on the other side and go to another company and be seen the same way?
Right.
And that's no fault of your own because that's how you raised. You hear something needs to be done, you jump into action to get it done, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they see you as invincible, right? Well, we'll work you like a workhorse. And the moment you complain about this being too much, even though they're coming to you, what can we do to take some things off your plate? Even when you suggest them, no action's moving. So do you at that time, I do believe you got to choose you first.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. And I know going through what I just went through, the whole emotional breakdown that I had. And I'm going to be very transparent and open. When you have an anxiety and panic attack that hits, and you can feel it creeping up because a colleague came to you and they told you how overwhelmed they worked, and then you get a phone call that they did.
Yeah.
It has an impact that goes beyond words. And when I woke up on Friday, I was totally discombobulated. I was paralyzed with fear and didn't even know why. I knew I was off that day, but even the thought of work triggered a whole
Mm-hmm.
psychological breakdown.
So I'm like, quick
Crazy.
question, Terretta. Like, so when there's an employee that express that they're overworked so many times and nothing is being done, and even though the grass may not be greener on the other side at another job, how many times can you go to a manager and tell them that and they still don't do anything, and you still trying to, I guess, communicate that to them, and it's like they're not listening. They only see you as you can handle it because you're strong. Like, when is your breaking point? And I think that's what
Decide
Landon
it
was
is.
asking.
Depends on the individual.
It's on the individual.
Depends
I
on who
do
you have
agree
in
with
your
that.
circle, because I can tell you right now that I work with two dudes where iron sharpens iron every single day. Now we come in and we might have, a 10 to 15 minute bitch and moan session about the shit that we got to deal with. But at the end of the day, it gets done.
Mm-hmm.
And I see how they work. And because of them, I'm able to produce the way that I am. So I'm blessed and grateful and fortunate to work with some dudes and some cats who get shit done on a regular basis. And so I'm like, all right, it is what it is. We just gonna push through it. But also my manager deflects and like shields us. Now he's not like, keeping us, out to the shed and everything else is going on in the house. But he keeps a lot of heat off of us, which allows us to be productive on a day-to-day basis where he's the one taking that on. Right. And a lot of managers aren't going to do that. Mm-hmm. A lot of managers are going to be quick to point the finger. Oh, Terretta did that. Oh, Nina did that. And so now you have executives looking at you when you walk through the halls like, oh, that's a little MF that can't do his job. So now you become even more and now you have people who aren't fighting for you to stay. Instead, they're trying to find reasons for you to leave. Mm-hmm. Because of a bad narrative of who you are as a person or a bad narrative as to who you are. I remember walking up to Teretta's desk when we were back in the office, and there was an executive who, funny, witty, great person, I would say, but he didn't realize that I could match the wit that he presented. And we had a cool relationship. You see me in the hallway, hey, what's up, Landon? Blase, blase. But when he started saying stuff and I actually was responding back and all in a joking manner, it wasn't anything, disrespectful. From that day forward, I could tell that there was a shift in how he viewed me. Because now you see me in the hallway and you're not saying anything. You're not, I come over to your desk to help you now. And all of a sudden you don't have nothing to say. You want to get on your phone and leave the office. So even just in that instance of what do you do? Is the grass going to be greener? It's stuff like that to where people have you pegged as a certain person based on what they heard or something that they didn't like. And they're not mature enough to come to you and have that conversation. So because of who they are and who they know and what circle they run in, now your whole environment is different because of something that is made out to be what it really wasn't. So yeah, the grass may not be greener because you're still going to have to deal with some other word BS, but your mind is going in different. Mm-hmm. Your sanity is different. Your mental is different. Your emotional is different. And I think that can honestly be night and day with the quality of work and how you feel about work. But nobody really wants to do that. Like, you've been at a company for X amount of years. I've been here 10 years. I don't want to leave. I've been here 15 years. I don't want to leave. And then you have people that are kind of stuck because of what they look like or their age or their gender or their beliefs. And so they become very complacent in where they're at. And it's just like, whatever, it's just where we work and who we work with. And that's the mindset. I know that we have that mindset. I know a lot of people who work in a similar industry or a similar job have that same mindset.
But is it a mindset or is it like just not wanting to move to another job? Because I personally feel like when you become complacent with what you have and you're not happy and you're not trying to make a change, I personally believe it'll come back to you one way or the other because it's stress. It's stress kills. It's a silent killer, or, it don't have to be silent. It could just happen. So it's like, I'm a firm believer on if you're not happy, move along.
Right. I say mindset, not as if it's like a negative thing, but I feel like you become a product of your environment, so to speak, to where you are, I don't want to say okay with it, but it's kind of like a mindset of it is what it is. Like, I feel
but
like,
with that too, that's also dangerous because you don't know what's inside of an employee that could be going through something like really crazy, and the next thing you know, they come to work ready to set it off.
Yeah,
so
100%.
Like, you have to be.
I have been a victim of the "it is what it is" mentality for so long, to where even my mom was like, "Why do you keep saying that?" I was like, I'm at a point where I just don't care. Like, if that's how you feel, then that's how you feel. I'm not going to allow it to dictate my mood anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of the complacency. But like you were saying, you have people that kind of venture into this I really don't care attitude. And if I have a I don't care, really don't care attitude. And if I have a I don't care or it is what it is attitude, how can I legitimately say that my work is going to be the best that it can be?
Right.
And more often than not, it's not. But a lot of that is because of the environment that you're working in. You don't feel heard, you feel overwhelmed, you feel underpaid. Yeah. And when you express these things, you don't have a manager that's actually going to do something about it. You don't have a department, excuse me, you don't have a department that has the power to change it, to actually change it and say, here we have these 20 to 30 employees that need to be heard, because it doesn't matter what you look like. It doesn't matter your age. It doesn't matter how long you've been at a company. You have value. If they hired you and brought you on to do a job and you're doing that job, you have value. So why is it that my value doesn't extend to me being able to offer you a suggestion that you're actually going to listen to or actually do something about? If my skill set dictates that I need to be paid more, then pay me more. If I brought you a suggestion that changed and actually flipped to where you brought in some 5 or 10 other people and their value, okay, well, maybe my calling is not exactly where I'm at. So make way for me to grow and progress to do something else that might be more beneficial to the company. Because at the end of the day, every company wants revenue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So more money that you make, the more that you're able to do. You bring in more people, even their mind is going to expand. I feel like a lot of people, a lot of companies kind of put themselves in a box because they put their employees that work with them in a bubble and feel like you're only as good as your title. You can't step out and do anything else. Like old girl told LeBron, shut up and dribble.
Yeah.
That's all you're good for.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you saw, the man's a billionaire.
Yeah, I saw it. I celebrated it. I was trying to formulate my loan papers, see if I can get a loan.
LeBron James Academy.
But I hear you. I hear you both. I do believe some of the onus is on the person because only you know your breaking point. But I also brought that up because we're also dealing with how we were raised.
Mm-hmm.
Your foundation also plays a part in this, on how you think. You know, I'm going to move on to another colleague. Unfortunately, we're losing another great person. And her situation was a little different. She was not getting the support that she needed, but she was getting the criticism.
Right.
And it got to a point where she was being criticized every day. So what do you think happens? She had to make a choice.
Mm-hmm.
She gone.
Now she's leaving. And the sad part about it is the very person that she works for is supposed to be making it better for everybody and be fair with everybody. But a reportee who reports to you could not get what she needed even when she asked.
See, and that's that. I know that situation, and it it's crazy to me that you have somebody saying, I feel stressed and overwhelmed, and especially with somebody just passing the very same location and telling you and telling their management that they felt stressed and overwhelmed. And although, part of it, may have something to do with the personal stuff that's going on, but from a work aspect, in my mind, it's almost like your duty and responsibility to make sure that you get the most out of the people that work with you and for you without making them feel overwhelmed. And so when you have avenues of adjusting that, whether that's hiring more people to take the workload off, or shifting it to another department, or extending the deadlines to allow their quality of work to go up while they still can progress to get to other stuff. I don't understand how you can put 10 to 15 things on one person and then expect 100% out of it every single time. And you are giving them no solution outside of, you just need to be more organized. Like, as a manager, it's like, I've worked for managers that couldn't do half the stuff that I can do. So how are you going to tell me how to do my job better if you can't even do what I do?
Mm-hmm.
But then when I come to you and I'm like, yo, like, give me some help, I don't see why that is seen as a sign of weakness. Because it takes strength, in my opinion, to go to somebody that you report to and tell them,
Absolutely.
I can't handle this. And if you want this to be done in a certain way by a certain time, either you need to give it to somebody else, or you need to bring somebody else in to take the workload off. And you have managers who don't understand how valuable somebody like that is to have, and they would rather lose them, find a replacement, have to train that replacement, and hope that that person fits in with the same team the same way and can produce in the same way. And to me, it boggles my mind that you wouldn't do more as a manager to make sure that people like that stay within your department, stay within your company. Like Terretta said a while ago, the moment that you speak up, you're seen as somebody who's replaceable, regardless of what you did, regardless of where you've taken, those process and procedures, or the company, or that department, or you became as an individual. They don't see any of that. They see the fact that, yeah, you did those 20 things right, but you know what? You complained about one of them. So we're going to find somebody else who can come in and do half of that. And then we're going to hire somebody else to do the other half. And now you're losing out on time, you're losing out on money, you're losing out on productivity, all because you can't, figure out the best way to help everybody involved. It's crazy to me. I deal with it, but I don't got to deal with it on that level.
I've been doing some research, and it's really troubling. It breaks down Black people in the workforce. And they're talking about trauma in this particular article. But one of the things that stood out to me was they said how we hold things in.
Mm-hmm.
And in doing that, that is what creates your health issues. And a lot of times we don't even know what's going on because we're so focused on, I want to get in and do my job and just get out, because you already know it's attached to some BS. Okay. But here's where I'm going with this. When you're stressed out and you are telling, whether it's the manager or anybody who's speaking, then you go and you make a formal complaint, and the company is aware because they've had many reports about these same managers, but yet they won't do anything. Here's the question, because you do have a choice. But in this case, why should we, when there are legal aspects that you can take to not only get out of the company, but have resources by doing it? Why not that? I think if that was more of our thought process, a lot of this stuff would stop in corporate America.
See, but you said something though, T. And going back to what you guys were talking about, being raised as strong Black women, you just said, if I remember correctly, um, you are basically you're basically keeping it in, and you're not telling anybody. But, and I'm not blaming, but this is kind of the environment that a lot of Black women are raised in, is that I don't need anybody. I don't need a man. I can do it on my own. And even though that you both are probably raised with that very same, know that you both are probably raised with that very same mentality, there's a lot of people who don't look like you that know that that's how you were raised.
That know what? Repeat that part.
Know
Repeat.
that that's how you were raised. They know that you were raised to be an independent, strong Black woman, a boss, a bad bitch, all that other stuff. So with that mindset in the environment that you guys were produced from, it's being used against you. Because if you're saying that you're independent, if you're saying that you're strong, if you're saying that you can do this, why the hell are you complaining about turning in this Excel file in a week? And I'm not saying that it's okay, but you have a lot of people at the top that are intelligent enough to play as if they don't know what's going on, and have been using that against everybody to keep them down and say, if you don't like it, you are replaceable. All you're doing is this. Why can't you figure out how to do it better? If you're a boss and a strong Black woman, and I'm just saying. So, Terretta, I apologize. I had to get that out. I actually forgot what question you asked. I think you were talking about the legal part of it. And
when we
weren't
just take it, right? And we're doing damage to ourselves because we're there to make a living for ourselves, right? But yes, you can leave, but it's not easy to just keep hopping to another job. So I'm just saying, when do we fight back in a sense where it makes sense? Because the only way people listen is if you hit the pocketbooks. Okay.
Nothing that we have gone through has taught us that that is the route to go. Everything, if you look at the history books, if you look at history itself, everything is basically saying that we are the ones who are supposed to be submissive. So it goes against everything that we've been taught, to stand your ground and actually fight back in a legal sense. Because if you look at how the justice system works, when is it really ever in our favor?
That's what I was thinking about when Terretta started talking about the legal aspect of it, because in the previous podcast, Terretta, I remember you said corporate America is an extension of America. So it's like, with that being said, as a Black person, a Black woman, Black male in corporate America, like Landon said, would it really work in our favor? We could walk, like, we may have a lot while we're going through that legal battle, but when we walk out of it, we may walk out with nothing, and we may be losing as well to pay for legal fees and our reputation with the company, because word will travel and things like that. So it's like we will lose a lot in the process. So it's like, for me, I get what you're saying, where everyone is not in a situation to go job hopping and everything, but it's like, I feel like with society changing, corporate America can't expect people to be in one position for so long, or one company, because the world is changing. And I think in society right now, everyone is at a breaking point. Like, you're treating me like this, I'm not dealing with this shit no more. F you, I'm going to be doing this. Some people leave a job without having one. Some people have a job to go to after. But I just feel everyone is not where we were prior, like pre-COVID. It's
Right.
different now. Everyone do not have that same tolerance level. Like I said a few minutes ago, someone could be festering up a lot of feelings and come to work and set it off. You never know what someone is going through, and that manager could just spark something and it's a wrap. Not just for that manager, but for everyone that's in close proximity of that individual. So it's like, I think people have to keep in mind, no job to me is worth dying for. And you have to also know that what someone may not appreciate that you're doing somewhere else, someone may appreciate everything that you're doing. So it's like you won't know unless you step out and find out what's out there. Even if you've been with the company for a long time, you just outgrew the company, especially if it's a shift in management and structure, and you're not getting along with the new person that's in place for your department. So, and you could be putting in complaints and talking about what's going on. And if nothing is being done, you have every right to make things better for yourself. Because like Landon and you said, nobody's responsible for your life except for you and change. So that's, as Terretta say, that's my story. I'm sticking to it.
And I agree with both of your stories. Here's what I want to say to that. Both valid points.
Mm-hmm.
But I was at an event not too long ago for the Asian Pacific Islanders. And they were talking about reparations. And that's what put me here. Because every other race throughout history, when they've been through something traumatic, there was some type of reparations. Okay? We are the only people who didn't have that. And this is a side note. When I went through the cancer, okay, my spirituality dictated to me that I had an attitude when they told me I had cancer. Okay. And what I did was, I didn't know how, but I said, since cancer has impacted me, I got to find a way to make it pay me. Okay. Now, little did I know, 3 years prior to my diagnosis, the lady came to my job from Affleck. I had no clue I was going to get cancer, but because my mother had it, I took out this insurance policy. The moment they told me I had cancer, they were signing a check for me for $5,000. Every time I stepped foot in the doctor's office, I got paid $500. So guess how much cancer ended up paying me? Close to 20 grand. And I use that as an example because I didn't know what I was doing when I signed up for this. Okay. But what I'm saying is, when do we get to a place when we say, stop hurting me, and then you fight back the best way you can through the pockets? Because it's more than one way to take a legal stand against somebody. But we won't look at it because, I'm going to this word, those mental constructs. I had the conversation with Landon. So for everybody who wasn't part of that conversation, I compared corporate America to religion, because there's a construct, there's rules and regulations, and those rules and regulations are designed to keep you in this box. Okay, which means it restrains you. It keeps you from being you. Okay. But there's also ways to kick through the construction. And that's what the corporate rebel is. When you think outside the box, when you challenge those constructs. So my question, well, maybe this is not a question. I'm just trying to
Get us fired.
yeah, right. How about get us paid, not fired? But I'm thinking of another colleague, okay, who went through a terrible experience, and now suing the company. And I'm privy to know what's going on and the games that corporations play, even in the legal aspect of it. It's always legal aspect of it. It's always a David and Goliath kind of get down when you fight against a corporation. But when you come together, see, that's the advantage that they have. We won't even open our mouth as a collective group to come together. Because once that happens, I guarantee you things will change. But they'll keep us separate. And that's what happens in corporations that are not ready or not willing to want to change the dynamics for everybody. They keep you segregated. So we got to each one teach one.
But I think when you're going up against corporate America, I personally feel one, you have to have
Johnny Cop.
yeah.
Well, you can't dig him up. You better take Benjamin Crump instead.
And get Sean King to back you up too.
That right there.
But it's like, I think, when you're going up against corporate America, you definitely have to have your legal team behind you. You have to have your money behind you. You definitely have to be ready to put up a fight, because corporate America is a very strong entity, and it's ran, like you said, by America. So it's like you have to be ready for that. And I think a lot of people are just like, you know what, I'd rather just save myself and just go to another position and just do what I have to do, because I think also a lot of people know what to expect at times in corporate America. We know it's not going to be the most pleasant place. We know we're going to go through the drama. And I just feel that, it's up to the individual. If it's like, I have a friend and he is just strictly all about corporate America. That's all he talk about. I want this, I want that, I want to get here, I want to get there. I should do this and I should do that. And this person did this and I'm going to do this. And I could see him trying to put up the fight to go up against corporate America. And then you have other people where it's like, you know what, this is a huge financial institution. This is what's going on. It's been going on with this since forever. I'm not dealing with it. I'm gonna just go someplace else. So I think it's all up to the individual if it's something that they're willing to go through. I don't think it's a right or wrong path to take with that. It's just, I feel it's up to the individual. Because corporate America is something hard to fight. That's like fighting law enforcement, if you ask me. Like, I have all these complaints, but are you really doing anything for the harassment and the brutality that I'm getting at work? So it's like, it's up to the individual. Yeah.
And I get that. That's the norm, right? Why kick up against the norm? But guess what? It took a lot of small Davids to take down Goliaths. And if it doesn't happen in my lifetime, I guarantee you it's going to happen. Because we can't continue. Everything is lopsided right now.
Yeah.
And that's because of the foundation. Anything you build on a WAP foundation, it's not going to be stable enough to hold it. Eventually, it's going to break. I'm not advising people to run out and start lawsuits. What I'm saying is, when are we as a people going to say, stop hurting me and make people pay for hurting you? Other races have done it. Okay. And they came together and they fought a system that was not for them. Okay. Can't tell me that it hasn't been done, because I just heard about it last week. And being from Gardena, okay, I grew up mostly around Asian Pacific Islanders. So to hear their story, I got a text while I was watching, and one of the things that was posed to me was, why isn't this happening for our communities? Now, I know it's a lot of talk about reparations, and I don't even know if I agree with that aspect as far as the 40 acres and a mule, okay? But I do believe if it wasn't for the backs of our ancestors, and let's just be real, the backs today is what keep corporate America running. And yet we don't make enough money to provide for ourselves and our family in a decent manner. When do we kick up against the grain as a collective and say enough?
I think that time is coming, actually, because everybody is not gonna, like I said, society is different now. Like, I know in New York City, the mayor, what's his name, Adams, he's forced.
Yeah, he's a cool dude. I saw him. He got a little swag.
He's trying to force people back into the office, and it's like, you have so many aspects to deal with New York. One, people don't feel safe getting on the train going into New York, or traveling around New York, and that's the majority of how everyone in New York get around. So if you're not safe, if you don't feel safe going to work, how are you going to get there? And whether or not you want to believe COVID is still out there, it is out there, and it's just so many aspects of it. So I just feel we're in a society, like I said, where people are not going to bow down like we used to. So I think, in what you're talking about, I think that fight is starting. It's just a matter of, we haven't seen it blow up yet. But I personally believe that it's coming, because people are not following behind politicians as much. People are fighting back with their managers and their bosses. And I think that time is coming, especially with the new generation coming in. They're not going to take what we endured. They're different. So I think that change is going to come, whether we will be in corporate America at that time or won't, whichever one. But I think that is coming. I do.
It's coming. It's coming. It's coming. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm trying to get Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five out my head. Okay. But we're coming up on our hour. So, Landon, what you got to say, dude?
Nothing.
There's always, I want you to know, I didn't say nothing. I didn't start nothing.
But you normally do, so I'm getting you first.
You can't say normally. They don't know about normally. This is what they see on here.
Okay, I got receipts though, so don't make me show.
Closing, I just, I look forward to the day when things will be better. Not just for minorities, but for everybody. Not just for people in corporate America, but in America and the world in general.
Yeah.
Like, we have so many things that we're dealing with on so many different levels that affect your mental health, that affect your emotional health, that affect your physical health. And I just don't know how without more involvement from a lot more people, how we get out of where we're at.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And I feel like for so long it's been a few segregated groups who were kind of doing things over here, and then a couple who were doing things over here, but it's never like that complete. The last time we were really unified was 9/11.
Mm-hmm.
That was really, as a country, that was really the last
Mm,
time that we were unified and like, nah, we ain't gonna let this shit happen again. That was
right.
the last time. And I don't. It always seems like, yeah, you have to take, a step backwards, two steps back, six steps forward type thing. I feel like things always have to kind of get worse before they get better, and that cliche is so true.
Mm-hmm.
Things have been bad for so long,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that a lot of people are just looking to be heard,
Mm-hmm.
understood, so that acknowledgement translates into you actually doing something, or people actually doing something to make things more equal for everybody across the board. I don't care what you look like. I don't care who you want to sleep with. I don't care if, none of that stuff matters. But as long as it's equal across the board for everybody, if my grind matches your grind, I should be getting paid as much as you.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Dress, how I do my hair, how I talk. If I can do the same job that you can do at the same level, we should have equal paychecks.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my closing.
That's your closing?
That's my closing. Y'all can
How
go.
is our mental health? Are we taking good care of our mental health, wonderful people?
Trying.
Me too.
Kids,
I,
so
I go for my walks. I go outside. I try to do things that make me happy. Being creative, the podcast, my blog, working on that.
you got
Huh?
a blog?
Sassy, classy, sophisticated woman.
Plug.
Anyway. But yeah, that's what it's called, and that's what I like to do. I like to write. I like to do podcasting. I like to give people a platform to talk about what's on their mind. I love the corporate rebel. That's why I started it, for people like you and Terretta. So that's what I like to do, and that's how I try to keep myself sane. Try to keep myself in things that make me happy. I deserve that. Once I log off from work, I deserve to be happy. I deserve to be in my good space.
Well, as we bring this wonderful podcast to an end,
Terretta, what about you?
Yeah, you ain't getting out of this all slick
I
job.
was getting ready to put it in a cute little synopsis. Oh my goodness. The sheriff, will you? I was about to say, as we bring it to an end, one of my wind downs is I go out into the balcony and I take some deep breaths and I put on some good music, and I'm getting myself back into the music arena. I haven't sung out in a long time. So I'm kind of getting back in the swing of things. I'm also getting in the swing of things to speak, open back up, doing speaking engagement. I'm starting to get some requests. And those are ways I do relax, because I'm at the park or I'm at a trail when I'm trying to think through a topic that I want to discuss. So I'm out in nature a lot, around water. So
woods.
that's forget you. Because see, if I met you in the woods, well, I would have to cook you up and cook you. Give away the dark meat. Try to find the dark meat. Okay. But I also wanted to I didn't want to end this without wishing everybody a happy Juneteenth month as we celebrate our freedoms. Although we still have a fight ahead of us, I want us to be reminded we've come a long ways and we stand on the shoulders of our ancestors. And in that position, we can do nothing but go forward and celebrate Pride Month. At the end of the day, We all should be standing side by side, no matter what. We are human beings, and we need to respect the decisions that we all make and honor that. And
Yep.
by honoring the person or the people in your life, you honor yourself. So those are my words of wisdom. I look forward because we are real people.
Real conversations.
Oh, y'all can do better. We'll work on that.
And to all, and I just want to say to the corporate rebels out there, keep doing what you do to make the change. Terretta and Landon, I appreciate y'all. I can't tell you guys that enough, and that's all I'm gonna say. So sign us off.
Sign us off, Landon.